Everyone talks about the cloud. We picture our emails, bank transfers, and video calls bouncing off satellites orbiting a pristine Earth. But that's a myth. If you want to see where the internet actually lives, you have to look down, past the clouds, through the ocean surface, and into the dark abyss. Down here, in the silt-covered mud, there are no wireless signals. Instead, the global digital economy runs through physical pipes, and they are shockingly small. A standard deep-sea cable is only about the diameter of a garden hose, resting entirely unprotected on the seabed. Tiny glass threads carry over 99% of all intercontinental data traffic. Every day, central banks rely on this network of over 400 cable routes wrapping around the Earth's mantle to process $10 trillion in financial transfers. Satellites handle barely 3% of our data. The rest flows right here. Modern civilization is entirely dependent on a physical system resting exposed in the mud. Because these cables are physical, they break. The global network experiences roughly 200 faults every single year, and the vast majority of those breaks happen in shallow coastal waters, where human maritime activity intersects with the infrastructure. Looking at this pie chart of submarine cable faults from the International Cable Protection Committee, the threat becomes obvious. A massive 44% of breaks are caused by suspected fishing or anchoring, with another 28% confirmed as fishing-related. Commercial bottom trawlers drag heavy metal doors across the seabed to keep their nets open, plowing right through the dirt. A poorly maintained threader dragging a rusted anchor can easily hook a cable, pull it taut, and snap the glass fibers inside. Natural forces do this too, with cascading effects. In December 2006, an earthquake triggered undersea landslides off the coast of Taiwan. It instantly severed 6 of the 7 cables connecting North America to East Asia. Trading in the Korean won froze, and millions lost phone and internet service simultaneously. This map of the Luzon Strait shows exactly why that outage was so severe. It's a geographical choke point. The water between China and Taiwan is too shallow for cables, forcing multiple critical routes into a tight cluster right here. If a random anchor or a shifting tectonic plate can freeze regional economies in minutes, an intentional attack on these choke points could cripple the globe. Adversarial nations recognize this vulnerability. They are treating the ocean floor as an active, unregulated zone for strategic warfare. The Russian Navy maintains a specialized fleet, including the main Directorate of Deep Sea Research. They deploy oceanographic vessels and auxiliary submarines specifically designed for deep-sea operations, actively prowling near vital Western communication routes in the Atlantic and Baltic Seas. China employs a different strategy, operating in the gray zone of deniable attacks. They use what appear to be civilian or commercial vessels to deliberately damage cables. Because anchors drag and fishing nets snag all the time, these attacks look like routine maritime accidents, granting the aggressor total plausible deniability. In 2023, 2 undersea cables connecting Taiwan's Matsu Islands to the mainland were severed by Chinese-registered ships. The island's 14,000 residents were suddenly forced offline, isolating a highly vulnerable population and proving how easily gray zone tactics can cut off a territory. When a cable goes dark, you can't just flip a switch to fix it. It requires dispatching specialized repair ships, securing permits, grappling the broken ends from the deep, and manually splicing microscopic glass fibers in a sterile room. The average repair takes 2 to 4 weeks. The ocean floor has become a theater of war, where attacks are highly destructive, easily deniable, and incredibly slow to repair. But physically cutting a cable is no longer the only way to sever a connection. A new invisible vector allows attackers to target the infrastructure's management systems. Cable operators use software called Remote Network Management Systems, or NMS. These tools allow companies to monitor data traffic and configure physical hardware at cable landing stations over the open internet without needing personnel on site. Connecting physical control systems to the internet creates a massive vulnerability. If an attacker breaches the NMS software, they can neutralize the submarine cable remotely. Once inside, foreign intelligence services or terrorist groups can intercept highly sensitive data, manipulate traffic flows, or trigger localized blackouts, all without deploying a single submarine. The front lines of this undersea war are no longer confined to the ocean floor. They are accessible from a keyboard thousands of miles away. When these connections drop, the effects hit your daily life immediately. If financial data stops, ATMs freeze, hospital records become inaccessible, global supply chains halt. Despite carrying $10 trillion a day, there is a stark lack of international legal protection for these lines. There are no military patrols guarding the entire length of the routes, and very few proactive defenses in place. We built a society capable of advanced artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and instantaneous global communication. Yet that entire sophisticated digital structure rests on fragile glass threads buried in the mud. A disruption won't come with a warning siren or a formal declaration. It will simply happen, suddenly and invisibly, isolating whole nations in an instant. The next catastrophic global conflict will not begin with a loud explosion in the sky. It will begin with a silent cut in the dark.